No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live episode number 222. And it's VE Day. So, of course, today I think of my grandparents, who I spoke about earlier in the week, and the millions of other brave young Brits who put their liberty and safety aside to fight for the West, resulting in victory against Hitler and Nazi Germany exactly 80 years ago with this historic announcement.
Channel Islands are also to be freed today. The German war is therefore at an end.
Churchill went on. We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing, but let us not forget for a moment the toil and efforts that lie ahead. But I just wanted to share with you some of the images of England on that day. These pictures were filmed by an off-duty policeman. And this is what we were fighting for, right? This is the England that we remember and that we love. And I do worry that our ancestors would be horrified by the current state of the country. But when we still have a country to fight for, there is still a fight on. So let's keep the fight going right here. And breaking right now, a US-UK VE Day trade deal.
This morning I'm thrilled to announce that we have reached a breakthrough trade deal with the United Kingdom. Incredible country. Today is a victory day for World War II. We won the war together exactly 80 years ago, so there could be no more perfect morning to reach this historic agreement. And it's beautiful weather out, I will tell you that, Keir. Beautiful weather. It's so perfect outside.
It's not bad here either, Donald. It's not bad here either. Unfortunately, though, breaking in the last hour, disappointing news. There is no free speech provisions attached to the deal, as the Vice President J.D. Vance had been pushing for. I'm going to show you Trump's confirmation of that very shortly. Let me tell you, Katie Hopkins isn't impressed with how Slippery Starmer is using the moment to present himself as a statesman, so we'll analyse all of that. And as the Reform UK civil war refuses to calm down, we'll hear from Donna Edmunds, who has quit the party, claiming it's a cult. She joins the Superstar panel today alongside our returning favourite Jasmine Birtles, the founder of Money Magpie and a contributor to News Uncut on Substack. Also coming up on the show today, the truth about the Southport Riots has finally been revealed. And guess what? No surprises. It's exactly what I told you at the time. And Starmer's big secret about his secret family now being openly joked about in PMQs by MPs. Isn't it time for one of them to share what they know with the public?
And he told me he's heard a rumour about the Prime Minister. Oh. Not that one, not that one. He's heard that there is a reason why.
Then, in the Uncancelled Aftershow on Substack, Prince Harry's closest friends have issued a blistering attack on the Sussexes after the Duke's insane BBC interview. We're going to analyse that unfiltered broadside with royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz. Please do sign up to watch www.outspoken.live. And of course, it is the last greatest British Union jackass of the week. Tomorrow, we'll name the worst Briton in the world this week, where the four Union jackasses go head to head. But before then, you have one more decision to make. Here are your nominees. Kit Malthouse, the Tory MP nominated by Michael Cass, who says Tory MPs in peers break ranks to call for recognition of Palestine. Not exactly a vote winner, is it, for the Tories? Narinder Kaur, nominated by Darren Donaldson because she never takes a break from race baiting, even on the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Shameful. Now, this is because Narinder posted on X, did they ask the same of the millions of Indian and Pakistani soldiers that fought and died for Britain during both World War II? And she's referring to the fact that there's going to be pressure, quite rightly, on migrants to have to be fluent in English if they want to be able to stay and work in the UK. And Ed Davey, you saw him there, nominated by Thomas Williams for saying that Trump would lose a fight with Paddington Bear and Bridget Jones. Okay, get choosing. And let me know your comments throughout the show. I will read out the best. I'll also name today's Greatest Britain too. But now, let's go. So on the surface, the good news for Nigel Farage and Reform UK is currently coming in droves. So no wonder the MSM is in full-on panic and destroy mode. Farage is now every bookmaker's favourite to be the next PM. And to be honest, they're a far better judge than the losers in Westminster, given the bookies have to put their money where their mouth is. And another bombshell poll today shows Reform UK posed to seize control of Wales at the Senate election in just a year if this astonishing trend from YouGov continues. Now, you know I've always been clear I am a critical friend to Reform UK, someone who voted for them, but wants to ensure they don't continue this horrible tack to the centre, becoming just another Tory light establishment party opposed to making the big decisions required on issues like mass deportations and the NHS. Now, its leadership, especially the ego-mad chairman Zia Youssef, who reported Rupert Lowe to the cops for hurty words, doesn't like that, however. But they should be careful what they wish for, because I would argue the party's real enemies are in the MSM. The MSM, who they have been so desperate to win over, but are now going for the kill. So the latest hysteria is over a perfectly reasonable post on X from the new Reform UK Accrington North councillor on the Lancashire County Council, Joel Tetlow, who wrote alongside a picture of Hitler and Nazi generals looking at war plans, "Why don't we invade them slowly? A few boats at a time. Don't be stupid. That will never work." Now, with his post on X, he added, "Let's be grateful this idea was never put to him, or the world as we know it would be a whole lot different." So, of course, cue hysteria, Sly News saying that the guy should be suspended, the British bashing corporation pushing for exactly the same thing. But as Carl Benjamin pointed out, the BBC have buried the lead here. The man posted an anti-Hitler post and compared the Channel invasion to the Nazis, but that didn't stop the desperate Labour MP Chris Webb purposefully misrepresenting the meaning of the post to attempt further lawfare against Tetlow, writing dishonestly, "This is not just acceptable, it is an affront to the values we hold dear. Such behaviour is a flagrant violation of the Councillor Code of Conduct and undermines the trust placed in public officials. There is no room for hate or extremism in our political discourse, and we must unequivocally condemn this conduct. I call upon Joel Tetlow to immediately delete this offensive comment and urge Reform UK to take decisive action by suspending him immediately. Representatives must be held to the highest standard to ensure that they reflect the values of our constituents and uphold the dignity of public office." Insane. Absolutely insane. Because there is an invasion of our country via the southern border. And I totally agree with the point that he was making. But of course, that hysteria from Reform's real enemies, their real enemies, Labour and the MSM, saw Tetlow bullied into deleting his tweet, although at this point, Reform UK hasn't suspended him, despite a very obvious purge going on of other Reform UK councillors with perfectly sound views. That saw this headline from former Reform candidate at the general election, Richard Thompson, in The Express, who wrote, "Nigel Farage's cowardice and ego is slapping betrayed Britons in the face all over again. The Reform UK leader talks tough on the biggest issues of our time, but where is the delivery?" And there was this broadside too from ex-Reform MP Rupert Lowe on mass deportation, where, by the way, he is increasingly receiving support from the Tories of his plan, who posted, "I will take no politician or political party moaning about illegal immigration seriously unless they commit to deporting every single illegal migrant, both arriving and currently living in the UK. It is really not that complicated to say they all need to go home." But no reform renegade has caused more trouble for the party than Donna Edmunds, a brilliant woman who is the founder of the National Archive for the Survivors of Grooming Gangs and a regional director for the excellent Great British PAC. But she has described the party as a Nigel Farage cult and accused the leader of treating its members with contempt. In a statement, she said, "I thought I was joining a party. It turned out I had joined a political cult," adding, "Reform absolutely is a cult of personality at war with its own grassroots, complete madness. This is the last thing the country needs right now. We need a strong party on the right that can actually deliver, not the cult of Nigel Farage." Now, as you can imagine, and loads of Outspoken viewers are divided on this, it has prompted fury from the Faragists within Reform, like Lee Hurst, who countered on X. She is working straight out of the Rupert Lowe playbook. I hope he and her will be very happy together, being as she posted that she would defect the moment he sets up a party, which led to her suspension. I suppose the usual suspects will leap to her defense and ignore the fact that she is out because she planned treachery in plain sight and was suspended for it. Good riddance to it. Well, as the Reform UK civil war deepens, I'm delighted to say that to respond in her first interview, Donna Edmunds joins the Superstar panel today alongside the brilliant Jasmine Birtles, the founder of Money Magpie and a contributor to News Uncut. So, Donna Edmunds, Lee Hurst, and lots of the Faragists within Reform UK are not happy with you at all. What about the people who say, well, actually, maybe we need a personality cult? Like, is MAGA in the US with Donald Trump not a personality cult? Maybe the cult of Nigel Farage is what's going to see him enter number 10 Downing Street.
Well, I doubt that. I mean, the thing is that, Trump actually brings the goods. Farage doesn't, or certainly hasn't so far. In fact, all he's really done is mess up two perfectly good parties and is about to mess up a third. So, it's fine to have, a strong following, a strong personal following if you're actually delivering on what you say you're going to deliver on. But there's no point creating a party that's really just a vehicle for one man to achieve his ambitions of getting into Downing Street. That's not what I got into politics for. That's not what any of my voters voted for. And it's gonna cause the party to, blow up.
And so you say Nigel has betrayed the members of Reform UK. How specifically has he done that?
Well, he has made the party all about himself. So one of the things that I was not happy about, and many people were not happy about, was the fact that our leaflets, said much more about Nigel. They had his face all over them. We, the candidates, were sort of relegated to a small corner of the leaflet. Now, I've always believed, and I still believe, that we live in a representative democracy. You're meant to be voting for the candidate, not for the party. Farage has flipped that. You're voting for Farage and not for the candidate. He's essentially, in the same way as Labour completely smashed our democracy by putting in all sorts of very, very, policies that actually broke our system. He's adding to that, because what he's doing is he's again moving voters away from voting for their actual representative and into voting for the party, the shine, the brand, the man. We don't live in a presidential system. We don't live in that kind of American style democracy. We actually have a very strong storied history of our own. We pretty much invented modern democracy, and he's destroying that with playing these silly games.
How did you feel when Zia Youssef, the chairman of Reform UK, reported Rupert Lowe to the police in the type of lawfare that I would argue is usually something that the left conducts, right, against people
Absolutely.
on the right? And this file, we learn, and I cannot believe this file has now been passed to the CPS, meaning that there's at least a chance of a criminal charge, although Rupert's team say this is usual standard practice if you're dealing with an MP. I'm shocked by that, because I've had lots of death threats that the police have ignored because they say there is no obvious threat to your life. Now, no one can tell me that Rupert Lowe posts an obvious threat to the life of Zia Yusuf. How difficult was that moment within the party? Because for me, that's when I noticed everything changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you that I was furious. Pretty much everyone I know in the party was absolutely furious. Again, we joined Reform because we wanted a really strong alternative to what we've already got with Labour and the Conservatives. And by playing these silly games, these silly Westminster games, everybody backbiting, everybody, reporting each other and all the rest of it, Reform is essentially becoming a third wing of the Uniparty. And that's not its purpose, it's not its mandate. That's not what people are voting for when they vote Reform. So why bother with it? This is my problem, really.
And that is such a concern. That is such a concern to me, Jasmine Birtles, because here is the fundamental issue, right? We need a party that is going to create real change. Now, I think maybe that could still be Reform UK, but there are some really worrying signs, Jasmine, of like this slow tack to the centre. And of course, the biggest issue that I'm concerned about is mass deportations of the 2 million illegals that are already here, which Nigel Farage said was impossible, seems to have done a slight U-turn on that since. But Jasmine, what about NHS reform, which has been a great passion of Nigel Farage's career, a great passion of Anne Widdecombe's career, who's in there as one of the senior spokespeople of Reform UK. Zia Yusuf has just thrown that out the window because clearly he's too worried about polling showing that it's unpopular. It's like, we have to have some unpopular decisions or this country is going to be not only destroyed from a cultural perspective, but destroyed economically.
Yeah, so much to unpick there. I do. This is, I would say, the fundamental problem of politics, that people go into politics with very definite views, quite often genuinely wanting to make a good difference, to change the world, to do this, that, or whatever it is that they believe. And then they find that they're not going to be voted in if they say 100% what they believe. And the vast mass of voters are kind of sort of somewhere vaguely towards the centre, left centre, right centre. So then the question is, okay, how do we kind of hang on to what we basically believe in, but don't say it too loudly so that we can get the votes in? Because, there again, do you get voted in? Or do you just stick with your principles? And there are good reasons to do either of those. And it sounds to me like Farage and Yusuf are trying to kind of go somewhere in between both of those, keeping one foot in the principles, but at the same time getting a few toes into the let's get some more votes and let's not be thrown out this time. It's a tightrope that they're walking, and one of the reasons why I'm personally not an MP. I can't do that.
No, indeed. I mean, look, the problem is you can look at this from loads of points of view, can't you? Which is that in some ways you have to think, okay, who is the most likely to create change? And at the moment, you could say Nigel Farage is the most likely. However, at the same time, sometimes morals have to come first. And I think what Nigel said, for example, on GB News, in regards to Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe, when he had the first chance post the election to try and bring the right together. And remembering he also attacked GB News itself and Tommy Robinson and Tommy Robinson's supporters as the alt-right, which is actually a white nationalist slur, which is quite something. I just worry that actually he has no intention of doing that. It's almost like he specifically wants to purge himself of people on the right, whereas I actually think we should be celebrating people on the right. But in case you missed it, this is what he said.
Would you have him back now in the party, Rupert Lowe, after all of this? Ben Habib, is there a way back for Ben?
Over my dead body.
Well, he wrote a piece saying you didn't deserve your victory. Did you see it?
I mean, I'm sorry, you get these small, very insignificant people who
say what you think, Nigel.
Who think they're more important than they are. They're frankly nothings. There you are.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't mind people sounding off. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I never have done. As long as there's some fundamental underlying loyalty. And that's the one thing I demand.
Donna, how did you feel about that? And do you think it's a fair point for him to say, look, as a party leader, you need a degree of loyalty? I mean, Donald Trump, for example, sacked loads of people who did not give him undying loyalty.
Loyalty, yes. Oh, sorry, Donna.
Sorry, I was going to, yeah, loyalty goes both ways is what I would say to that. I mean, you know, I think the party, everybody I know who's in the party really just wants to get the country back on track. And we are very happy to put our weight behind any leader who will get us there. Now, if Farage wants to be that leader, and, you know, I'd love him at this point because Reform are in the best position to, you know, have a Damascene moment and realize the error of his ways and say, okay, let's maybe, you know, play this a little bit better with the party itself, you know, manage the party better itself. You know, if he wanted to instill loyalty, I'm sure there would be a lot of people who would be loyal. But what's actually happening in the party is that whole branches are being purged. You know, perfectly good candidates are being replaced by people parachuted in. We have had all this from the other parties for so many years. Everyone's sick of it. No one wants to play that game anymore. This is not what Reform is meant to be. And he's throwing it away. You know, he's throwing away the loyalty that a lot of people would have had for him. There's a lot of goodwill out there, and he's just completely burnt it to a crisp.
Yeah, it's a big shame because, as you say, loyalty is really, really important, particularly with a growing brand, as it were, and that's, you know, how one sees Reform. I'm very disappointed by the language and the ungraciousness of describing somebody as, you know, insignificant. One should never do that, however unpleasant, you know, whatever, you know, you consider the criticisms to be. I think that's a very poor show, and that's a very poor show, particularly from a leader. We need grace, we need graciousness in public life, and we've lost much of that over the last few decades.
I totally agree. I guess the counter to this, and I'm just looking at a brand new poll from Find Out Now, which shows Reform UK surging to its biggest lead with 33% of the vote. Labour is on 20% of the vote, the Conservatives 16%, the Lib Dems on 15%, the Greens on 11%. So I imagine what Nigel Farage would be saying to you, Donna, was, well, I'm sorry, we're at 30%. And that's what we need. And maybe we don't need you. And that's really upsetting for me, of course. But he would argue this is why the tack to the centre has happened.
I think he's playing a very dangerous game because, you know, yeah, there's 30% out there. I would say that's 30% of the country who is desperate for change. They are absolutely crying out for somebody who's going to be a champion of the people. And as I keep saying, it's his to lose, right? He has that polling. There's a lot of goodwill out in there in the country. A lot of people want real change and a real alternative to the Conservatives and the Tories, and Labour. And if he, you know, picks up that baton and runs with it, that election is his to win. But he won't win it if he starts to stab good people in the back, if he starts to badmouth, you know, to perfectly decent people who just want the country to be a better place to live. And I honestly don't know why he's doing it. I mean, it's the most ludicrous strategy. You know, if you've got strong poll, you've got a country that's desperate for you, and you've got a whole team of players who are like, great, let's get out there, what can we do with this? Why on earth would you start going to war with your own grassroots? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, true. And I think the problem in a way that we have here is that Nigel himself is the biggest brand. I know you've had June Slater on the programme, Dan, and June talks to people outside supermarkets, and she says, you know, who do you recognise out of this list? And Nigel Farage is one of them. You've got Ben Habib and maybe a couple of others, and everybody says Nigel Farage. So as far as the voters are concerned, Nigel literally is Reform.
Just because you know him, it doesn't mean you like him.
Oh, no, a lot of them don't. Yes, that's very true. But
very good point. Very, very good point. I'm going to interrupt because breaking right now, major news out of Vatican City. Let's look at this scene from moments ago as the papal conclave is convening. And if we just go to the shot, you will see white smoke has just emerged, which means a new pope has been elected. If we take the live shot at the moment from Vatican City, we are awaiting the new pope entering on the balcony. So this is actually a very exciting moment. We had the black smoke emerging earlier in the day because, of course, there has to be a 75% majority for the new pope. And now we await that election. That was not a long conclave, Jasmine Birtles. What do you make of it?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, there's so much to consider with the papal vote because it's so much about politics. The last pope was very political. Certainly, I would say the wokest pope we've had. And I wonder if behind the scenes they were saying, right, we're not going to have that anymore. It's quite possible that they've got the idea of the mood of Europe, the mood of the West, particularly, which is increasingly anti-woke. So I wonder if they've just gone, right, enough. Like the electorate said, enough with that. We want someone straight down the line. It'll be really interesting to see if it is somebody who's like, you know, the anti-Pope Francis.
And this is actually very interesting, the political angle to this. Look at this, Donna, from Dan Hodges, the Mail on Sunday political columnist. White smoke is Downing Street's worst nightmare because, of course, that news of the US-UK VE Day trade deal, which we will be speaking about later in the show, has now been pushed totally off the news agenda as we await for the announcement of a new pope. So more bad news for Slippery Starmer, this quick conclave.
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, they're not that lucky with their timing, actually, on a lot of this stuff. But to be honest, their comms is so bad, it's probably doing them a favour. I mean, you know, I'm sure they've already messed up the India deal by sort of revealing that actually they're about to undercut everybody's jobs in the UK by not having Indians pay national insurance. I'm sure they'll somehow find a way to mess up the American trade deal. And, you know, maybe a little bit of heat off of them won't be a bad thing for them after all. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And where do you stand on which direction the Catholic Church should go down, Donna? Is there a need to return to traditional values, which, for example, Father Calvin Robinson has been calling for on this show for some time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that plays in very much to this idea of a sense of British renewal as well. You know, Britain has a strong Christian heritage. We are a Christian country. You know, I went to school and we sang hymns and, you know, we did prayers and all the rest of it. That's fallen away. And you can see that as that's fallen away, the country itself has fallen away. So I do think that, you know, a strong return to a more muscular Christianity, a more muscular Catholicism. And actually the Church of England could really take a leaf out of their book as well. And sort of just see that, you know, all of this preaching of the Guardian in our churches on Sunday isn't what we need. We actually need, you know, a return to Christian values. And that's not, you know, I mean, I probably don't have to sell Christian values on this show, but, you know, it means compassion and all the rest of it that the left love, but actual real compassion, not this sort of faux, you know, pretending to care for the weak when actually you're propping up the minorities and creating chaos. So yeah, it would be great to see a pope that to actually upholds that and tries to undo some of this woke damage that's been done to the churches.
Okay, so let's just look once more at the moment that the white smoke emerged, showing that the Pope had been elected, and you can see the crowd there. Oh, let's listen. That's a real moment, isn't it? The crowd of Catholics who had been gathered in Vatican City, absolutely delighted. So what we'll do is we'll keep an eye on what is going on in Vatican City, and who knows, maybe by the end of the show, we will have a new pope. Well, we do have a new pope. We may know the identity of the new pope. Breaking right now, Katie Hopkins has reacted in fury to Slippery Starmer, who has used VE Day to try and move away from all of the negative headlines by securing a trade deal with Donald Trump and the US. But the outspoken influencer posted on X, "Oh, do F off with your mincing little photo op, Keir Starmer. You couldn't fight your way out of a Primark bag in the rain. Ordinary Brits have never been so shackled. Keir Stasi, you need to pack your bags, son." And of course, there had been a lot of hope, including from me, that this trade deal might put pressure on Starmer on the key issue of free speech. However, Trump has just been asked about that by the Daily Wire in the Oval Office, specifically referencing J.D. Vance. Remember, he had that Oval Office confrontation with Starmer over free speech in the United Kingdom, which we know does no longer exist. But unfortunately, the confirmation that this is a trade deal only. Here's what went down.
Thank you. Mary Margaret Ollahan with Daily Wire. I had a question about the UK deal today. I heard there was talk that part of the agreement would depend on whether the UK would respect free speech and freedom of religion. I know the VP is really interested in that and talked about that earlier this year. Was there any assurances that you guys got on that front?
You want to handle that?
Yeah, that was not part of the conversation. Our conversation was an economic conversation from start to finish, closed by the president yesterday. This was a business deal, open their markets and also protect their workers, grow our markets, and help our workers.
This was about business religion. You know, business is sort of a semi-religion, but not nearly as important. I don't want to get myself into
So that's sad news. Donald Trump had posted on X, the agreement with the United Kingdom is a full and comprehensive one that will cement the relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom for many years to come. Because of our long-time history and allegiance together, it is a great honor to have the United Kingdom as our first announcement. Many other deals which are in serious stage of negotiation to follow. Then there was a phone call between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer, and this happened. We'll come back to that in just one moment. But of course, Jasmine Birtles, this is a moment for Keir Starmer nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. I mean, for a start, Trump said that he's removing the 25% tariff on UK steel and aluminium. That's good news for what's left of our steel and aluminium manufacturing. And also that the lower car rate is going to be brought in as well. That a lot of cars are only going to have 10% tariff. Kemi Badenoch says that we've been shafted. I mean, compared to Europe, for example, I think we've got away with it lightly. I said it when it was originally announced, and I think with this, we have got away with it lightly. And if I were a European business, I mean, we'll wait and see what is announced about, you know, European countries. But if I were in the EU, I would be seriously considering potentially moving my business to the UK to make the most of those tariffs if I was doing a lot of business with America. I think it could potentially, I don't know, but it could potentially be really good for Britain.
Okay, let's have a look at that phone call. We've got it now between Trump and Starmer.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. We're going to have a continued, maybe a better relationship than ever before. You know, I don't know if the media knows, but the U.S. and U.K. have been working for years to try and make a deal. And it never quite got there, but it did with this prime minister. So I want to just congratulate you.
Well, with this president, this prime minister, we've managed to achieve what many people have tried to achieve for many years.
That's right.
And I'm really pleased, and it feels completely historic and on a special 80-year anniversary as well. So, Donald, thank you so much. It's really good to have got this deal over the line. Tribute to both teams, tribute to our countries, and tribute to your leadership.
Thank you.
Donna, is this really Starmer?
Sorry, you broke up. Is this
such a great victory for Starmer?
Oh. No, he's got lucky with this one, to be honest. I mean, Trump loves the UK. We know that. He's got his golf courses up in Scotland. He's called us a big and highly respected country. They wanted to do this deal with us because the Americans happen to like us. But the reality is that, I mean, although this is what Brexit was for, so that we could look out to the rest of the world and start to make these deals with places like America, with places like India also, the reality is that, after 40 odd years within the European Union, we don't really have the expertise in this country to actually thrash out deals of this type. And I think that, if we have come out of this lightly, it's because the Americans like us and for really no other reason, because they could have run rings around us. I mean, you've got the art of the deal guy running their country, and we've got Starmer. So enough said, I think, on that one.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Jasmine, from a financial perspective, is this going to make any difference to what is a cratering, low-growth economy under Rachel from accounts and Slippery Starmer?
Well, absolutely. I think they will try and put all sorts of blame, they have done already, onto tariffs. But, today we saw that the interest rates have been brought down. The Bank of England is clearly worried about recession. They're not so worried about inflation anymore. It's recession. There's a looming, very real chance of a recession. So they brought the interest rates down. Some of them wanted to bring it down by 0.5%. It's come down by 0.25%. But with the tax regime that we've got, and I'm a business person, I've spoken to other business people about this, increasingly it's pointless running a business. And I've also got readers, viewers who are getting in touch saying, I'm going to take early retirement, or I'm going to stop being freelance. I'm not going to work so hard because why bother? I have to pay so much tax. Literally, I've had a few people saying, I've had enough. I'm 50 something. I'm just going to retire, even if it means that I'm on less money. At least I won't have to pay so much tax. And when you have that kind of thinking, and that's happening all across the country, you haven't a hope of a proper economy. And certainly, growth will be anemic at best, really.
How bad is it for Starmer? If we just go back to these live scenes from Vatican City at the moment, because we are expecting the new Pope to emerge on the balcony at some point while we are on air. He has been chosen. How bad is this for Starmer from a PR perspective, Donna, given that literally he had that tiny window of media attention and all the analysis now is not going to be on the trade deal, but is going to be about the identity of the new Pope?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, he's just not got lucky. He doesn't seem to be a particularly lucky guy in general, to be honest. I mean, I sort of almost feel bad for him because, he just sort of bumbles around and makes all sorts of mistakes left, right, and centre, and then it just gets, goes from bad to worse. But yeah, he could have had something with this trade deal, a really nice piece of good news. As Jasmine has just said, the economy is tanking. The whole country is pretty demoralised. So it would have been nice for him, especially on VE Day, to be able to wave that British flag and, show that he's sort of had a win. And now that's just sort of been pulled from rug has been pulled from under his feet, really. So it's not great for him. But I mean, I think it's indicative of this whole Labour government that they just crash from calamity to calamity, don't they? So I think it's sort of in keeping with their leadership, frankly.
Yes, I was amazed, when they announced right at the start that they were going to remove the winter fuel payment from the retirees. It was just, to me, it was an entirely dumb PR move. They should have done some good things first, in particular, some moves that would show that they were on the side of British people, not just on the side of people coming into the country, because that is very much where they seem to keep positioning themselves, even though it's blatantly obvious that that's extremely unpopular. So first of all, they took money away from pensioners. And then they said, oh, we're going to give money to this net zero project in abroad somewhere. We're going to give 10 billion to various countries abroad to help them with their net zero projects. And you're thinking, what? Ed Miliband comes up, says, we're going to spend 22 billion on carbon capture. And this is after they've been boring on about the 22 billion pound hole that the Tories left them. And it's just so unintelligent, just your basic. I could have helped them with this. Your basic PR person, just ordinary journalist would go, don't do that first. Do this first. Show that you're on the side of the British people, and then later on hit them with some, silly spending, if you like. It's extraordinary the lack of thought that has gone through it, I think.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So let's just have a look again at those scenes at the Sistine Chapel. Earlier, we did see a marching band dressed in deep blue clothes playing music, walking through the crowds at the Vatican, but walking alongside them, of course, is the Swiss Guards and that iconic blue and yellow striped uniform. Usually, once the decision is made within the conclave, it takes about an hour for the new Pope to emerge on that balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square. Right now, the new Pope has been led to a small room right next to the Sistine Chapel. That is where he will put on the white papal robes for the first time. And then a senior cardinal will soon confirm the decision, announcing in Latin, we have a pope, and introducing the new pontiff by his chosen papal name. So do stand by, because a new pope has been chosen, and we're expecting him to be revealed very, very shortly. Breaking right now, Slippery Starmer lied about the so-called riots after the Southport massacre, with proof coming in a new police report that there was no link to the far right whatsoever. And as Basil the Great posted on X about this, the Prime Minister lied when he said these were far right thugs. He smeared ordinary British citizens after covering up his government's failure over Axel Rudakabana resign. New Reform UK councillor Darren Grimes added, the police report into the Southport protest concludes, despite the media and Starmer's narrative, that there wasn't evidence of far-right groups and that actually it was locals in their own areas. Quite the opposite to the elusive far-right bogeyman Starmer warned us of. And he pointed specifically to a line from the report that said it concluded there was no evidence to suggest the disorder had been premeditated or coordinated by any specific group or network. Now, I have been saying this since day one. We were on air that terrible day in Southport when Starmer turned up and was heckled by the locals. And I remember listening so closely to what those locals were saying. And some of them were friends of people who had lost their children in that disgusting mass terror attack. But Starmer knew the public was offside, and he knew there had to be a bogeyman, and he knew it was politically advantageous for him to create some sort of idea that there was a coordinated far-right activity in regards to trying to create social unrest, rather than genuine fury that we have been ignored for so many decades, for 6 decades in this country, about the huge scourge of mass migration and the way that it has changed the shape and the face of the United Kingdom forever. So let me just remind you of that moment. You can see it in his head. I want you to watch Slippery Starmer here, where he saw quite clearly that unless he came up with another big lie, the public was going to turn on him, given what he knew.
How many more children are going to die in our streets, Prime Minister? How many more children? How many more children, Prime Minister? Are we going to do something?
Time to change, Starmer.
Come on, it's needed. How many more children? Is it mine next? What's shameful? Bye-bye. You got your photos, off you go. Make a real change, Prime Minister. Make a real change! Our children! Go away!
And you'll hear right at the end there, a woman desperate to speak to Starmer. I've just found out my friend's 9-year-old daughter was one of those who was in the dance class. Now, I think Kevin O'Sullivan yesterday on Talk summed up very well Starmer's true motivation.
And of course, Keir Starmer, throughout this phase, he kept saying, these are not protests. They're not protests. Far-right thugs. They're just far-right thugs. So they're not protests. These are just far-right thugs causing trouble. That was what the Prime Minister told us ad infinitum, day in, day out for weeks. Remember? He just wouldn't stop with far-right thugs. These are not protests. Right, this is the published report today by the Police Inspectorate. It found, and I quote, no conclusive evidence that the summer riots that were triggered by the Southport murders were coordinated by extremist groups. So, not far-right thugs then. And that most of the protesters were local, so it wasn't a coordinated cross-country effort, were local and I'm quoting again, the violence was mainly unrelated to their ideology or political views. So not far-right thugs then. And it goes on to say, what were the reasons for these protests? So it does say they were protests. Keir Starmer, they're not protests. Were they then just a sort of spontaneous eruption of violence for no reason whatsoever? They were protesting against the migrant crisis, Keir.
Let me bring in my superstar panel again. Great British Pack Regional Director Donna Edmunds, and Jasmine Birtles of Money Magpie. Jasmine, this was always so obvious. There was no coordinated far-right campaign. Starmer knew all about Axel Rudakabana, but he lied and he gaslit and maybe he bought time, but I don't think we can ever trust or forgive him again.
No, absolutely. And this, again, is sort of textbook Marxism in a sense, in that it's just using slurs to denigrate genuine anger, genuine upset. Just, you can call somebody far right, you could call them conspiracy theorists, you can call them anti-Semitic, all of these just labels in order to quiet and dampen down genuine anger, genuine upset, genuine tragedy here. And of course, we do also know that he has connections with the family. So he will be wanting, I'm sure, to do everything he can to make it seem that it's us, it's the others, the people in the country that are on the back foot and that are the wrong ones, the wrong uns, and not the people who are actually doing the wrong, which is this Axel Rudakabana. This was a major crime, and it frankly doesn't matter what colour or creed or race the person was. This was murder, it's pure and simple, and should at all times have been dealt with on that basis. That was the important thing.
What do you think, Donna?
Well, I'm actually quite concerned about this report. Although it obviously has found that there was no sort of coordinated efforts, there is another line in it. It said that although the causes were complex, the overwhelming speed and volume of online content further fueled its spread. And to me, that sounds very much like they're about to use this as an excuse to clamp down further on free speech, to try and shut down maybe even social media platforms.
Big time.
Because all
Big
it's really
time.
said there is that it went viral. It's like, well, yeah, everyone was angry. So if every time anything goes viral, we're going to have to be, told to stay quiet and in our boxes, then how are they going to do that other than pulling the plug? I mean, I know you can't really, but on Twitter.
Yeah, but they want to try. They want to try.
Oh, they will.
Want
Absolutely.
to control these platforms. Look, you are so right to point that out, because that is absolutely the motivation here. I find it chilling. I find it quite sickening. But you see it all the time. You see the way that at the moment the left are hiding behind children in an attempt to crack down on free speech online. Oh, because we've got to protect children. But they know it's not actually about that. What it's really about is population control. They do not want us to know the truth. They never wanted us to know the truth about Axel Rudakabana. By the way, we still don't know the full truth about Axel Rudakabana, and they use all of the levers of state that they can. So obviously hiding behind contempt of court, and that's why they're so terrified, and you're so right to point it out, Donna, they are so terrified about social media because, of course, especially when it comes to X and Elon Musk, they cannot control him, and they know they cannot control him. But look, Starmer is so shameful, I think, in so many ways in terms of how much he hates us. And I really do mean that, because just remember yesterday, after Lucy Powell, and I know this is an issue, Donna, that you're so passionate about, the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. And after those despicable comments from Lucy Powell yesterday, as Chris Rose pointed out, at PMQs yesterday, Starmer had Lucy Powell sit right next to him instead of sacking her. He says it's an image the Conservatives and Reform should use for the next election. The image alone says it all. Well, I can tell you, and there's been a glut of breaking news this afternoon, of course, but I can tell you that Lucy Powell has now made a lengthy apology in the House of Commons. I want to play this to you, Jasmine and Donna, and get your reaction, please.
Can I actually thank him for raising with me what I said in an episode of Any Questions last week, so I can be absolutely clear with the House today, especially to the victims and survivors of child sexual abuse and grooming gangs, that I am very sorry for those remarks, as I made clear over the weekend. I and every member of this government want your truth to be heard, wherever that truth leads. Your truly appalling experiences need to be acted on, for those responsible to be accountable and face the full force of the law, and for justice to be served. I would never want, Mr. Speaker, to leave the impression that these very serious, profound and far-reaching issues, which I have campaigned on for many years, should be shied away from and not aired. Far from it. No stone will be left unturned. And what the victims want, first and foremost, is for action to be taken and for the many, many recommendations from the previous inquiries to be implemented in full, including mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse, something I have called for nearly a decade. Shockingly, these recommendations remained sitting on the shelf until we came into government last year. Baroness Louise Casey, who conducted the No Hold Bars inquiry into Rotherham, is carrying out an audit on the scale, nature and characteristics of grooming gangs. She will be reporting soon. And this will include the questions of ethnicity as well. Every police force in England and Wales has been asked to look again at historic grooming gangs cases, and they will be reopened where it is appropriate to get perpetrators behind bars. So I hope the House is left in no doubt, Mr. Speaker, of my commitment to these issues and my apology to those victims for any distress I have caused them.
Donna Edmunds, do you want to know my view? My view is that the only thing she's sorry for is the fact that her job was on the line. I think she revealed her true colours when she described any mention of Pakistani Muslim rape gangs as a dog whistle. This is how Labour thinks. Do you accept that apology, and do you believe that apology?
No, obviously I don't, but I'm actually going to be in Westminster next Thursday, so I'll march over to her office and I'll say, great, if you really mean that, you can fund my National Archive for the Survivors of Grooming Gangs, because that's exactly what we plan to do. Is I want to interview every single person I can find who will come forward. I want to get their full story, going back no matter how long, 80s, 70s, however far it goes back. Find out exactly what happened to every single one of those people, girls, and there are boys as well. People don't talk about the boys, but there are boy survivors as well, and ask them what happened and who let it happen, because we need to know that by now. This is not a want anymore. This is not, for the survivors. It's for the whole country. Something terrible has happened in this country on a scale never ever seen on these shores before. We have been attacked from within, and that's been going on for decades, and it's been allowed to go on for decades by the people who are supposed to protect us and serve us. So yeah, I'm just going to pop down to her office and say, brilliant, give me the funding then. It saves me having to do the fundraising myself. And she won't, because she doesn't really mean it. She's a liar.
Jasmine Birtles, do you agree? Do you accept her apology?
I don't. I think it's a useful apology, because she's been forced to say that she's going to do X, Y, and Z. And there it was on camera, and there will be people like Donna who will be able to take her to task and go, you said this, have you done it yet? I do think that the dog whistle idea is probably something that has been said in cabinet. I'm sure it felt when she said it, it felt like something that all of the Labour cabinet were just sort of saying, and that was the way that they were approaching this. So I don't think that her apology is real, but I think it's been a useful one, potentially, to actually get some things done. So I'm glad Donna is on it. I'm glad she's heard about it, and that she will be able to take her to task later on.
Very good
you
point.
You betcha.
Very good point. Well, look, stand by, Donna Edmunds and Jasmine Birtles. A reminder, we are on Pope Watch. Take a look at these live scenes in Vatican City, where the white smoke, while we've been on air, has risen through the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, meaning that the conclave has decided with a 75% majority the identity of the new Pope. He is currently likely being put into his papal robes for the first time, choosing his name as Pope, and it will be announced to the world imminently. Of course, this is also very bad news for Slippery Starmer, the Prime Minister, given it wipes the US-UK VE Day trade deal from the top of the news agenda. So do stand by, because we will be bringing you the first image and the identity of the new Pope imminently. Plus, as well, what is really going on with Keir Starmer and his wife, given that Tory MPs are now openly joking about those rumours in Parliament. So lots more to come. Don't go anywhere today. A massive day of breaking news. And you know you only want to get it from an independent platform like Outspoken, right? But first, Father's Day. Just around the corner. And let's be honest, Dad does not need another coffee mug or pair of socks. It's time to give him something he'll actually use. Meet the Chairman Pro from Manscaped, the perfect Father's Day gift for the dad who deserves to look and feel his best. This isn't just any razor. The Chairman Pro is a high-tech, dad-approved grooming upgrade. It's an electric face shaver that can tackle up to 5 days of growth and features 2 interchangeable blade heads. Whether he's cleaning up for golf, dinner, or just another accidental nap on the recliner, make sure he does it with style. The Chairman Pro is perfect for the dad who taught you how to shave and now needs a reminder how it's really done. I've already bought my dad a Manscaped, I have to be honest, but he's bald, so I bought him the Dome Shaver Plus, which is another brilliant product. But look, have your dad join the over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code Outspoken for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. Let me tell you what's brilliant about this product. It has 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. The skin-safe 4-blade foil is for that super close shave, and the skin-safe stubble trimmer is for that sophisticated 5 o'clock shadow look. both designed to help reduce razor burn and irritation so skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave. Flex Adjust technology features a 360-degree contouring head and blades that flex and adjust the contours of the face and neck. And since Dad is always telling you to charge your phone, now he can take his own advice thanks to the digital battery display. Manscaped comes with a 2-year warranty on all powered devices, giving you peace of mind with every use. So get your dad a Father's Day gift he'll actually use and get the Chairman Pro for 15% off with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. That's 15% off your entire order. Just use the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. But now, back to the show. Breaking right now, Slippery Starmer's secret family and the truth about the makeup of it is now considered such a laughing matter at Westminster. It has actually been raised in the House of Commons yet again, this time by a Conservative MP in front of the Prime Minister, who looked stony-faced but just brushed it off. And for me, this raises a really serious point. Why do we live in a country where the mainstream media works in lockstep with the political establishment to cover up stories that they all believe they can talk about? So they have all been talking about for months and months and months the problems in the marriage between Keir Starmer, Slippery Starmer as I call him, and Lady Victoria Starmer, but they don't believe you have a right to know. While I have been very honest about the fact that I feel deeply sorry for Lady Starmer, given the huge issues that she's facing and the strain that she's dealing with in the public eye. And let's just look at her, by the way, over the past few days, because after her disappearance for 6 weeks, Starmer is forcing her to make public appearance after public appearance, and she clearly feels deeply uncomfortable about it. But we know why. They're doing it to hit back at any suggestion that there are problems in the marriage, even though I have reported for months that there very much are. But again, what I find disgusting, and the reason that I'm talking about this subject again today, is I don't believe that MPs should be wink, wink, nudge, nudging about this with all the Westminster journalists, yet refusing to tell you the truth. So this is the moment I'm talking about. You've got to read between the lines, but it's very, very clear what the Conservative MP, Matt Vickers, was getting at during this question at PMQs yesterday. Watch.
Talking to Jason, a pub landlord, and he told me he's heard a rumour about the Prime Minister. Not that one, not that one. He's heard that there is a reason why the Prime Minister hates Britain's pubs. Landlords like Jason are being battered by Labour's jobs tax and the slashing of small business rates relief, meaning that as many as half of Britain's pubs could be closed by 2030. Why does he hate Britain's pubs? And if he doesn't, why is he taxing them into extinction?
Mr. Speaker, nobody likes pubs better than me, and we support them. But, Mr. Speaker, it's the same old nonsense. They say they don't want the national insurance rise, but they don't have the courage to say they'd reverse it, because they know if they said that, they wouldn't be able to say where the money's coming from. That's how we got into the problem in the first place.
Let me bring in my superstar panel again. Donna Edmunds of the Great British Pack, former Reform UK councillor, and Jasmine Birtles, who is, of course, Money Magpie and a brilliant independent journalist at News Uncut on Substack as well. So, Jasmine, do you understand where I'm coming from here? Like, why on earth should the British public be locked out of a secret that all of the Westminster journalists, all of the MPs are discussing infinitum, and that is even raised within PMQs?
It is extraordinary, isn't it? Because when you and I know that journalists are often, hidebound by legal problems, that they can't, if they can't stand up a story, they can't put it out in the newspapers. But clearly here, there's a lot of ways that they can stand up this story. So it does sound to me like they are simply working in cahoots with the Labour Party, and particularly the Labour leadership. And that's not helpful for us, the voters, frankly. It sounds, as you say, like there's information that we need to hear, because why shouldn't we? If the Westminster journalists and the MPs are talking about it, well, they're not better than the rest of us. We need to be able to hear this as voters and decide then what we want to do with this party.
Yeah, how do you feel about it, Rachel? Donna?
Yeah, it's all right.
I keep saying Rachel, by the way, because your ex name is Donna Rachel, isn't it? Or Rachel Donna. That's just so people know. That's what. Is it your middle name? Is it your middle name?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. So I'm happy for either. I don't mind at all. No, back to the media. I mean, it's a very cozy club over in Westminster, isn't it? And you know, they all hang out together. They go to the same bars and all the rest of it. We know this by now. For me, the more worrying question is, okay, I mean, this is a sort of gossipy story about Starmer and his. I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say, but you know, but what else are they hiding? I mean, what else are the media not publishing if they refuse to publish this? I'm sure there's all sorts of things.
And just discussing amongst themselves in Parliament. And by the way, this is not the first time it has been raised in Parliament, and this is what I find so shocking. The journalists, again, are posting all about it as a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's like, no, I'm going to tell you what I know and what I can tell you, whereas they are the big mainstream media organisations that could actually have the balls to say, we're going to go to print on this and let's see if Starmer sues us, rather than little old independent journalist me. But it's not the first time it's been raised in PMQs. This also happened with the Labour MP Dawn Butler thinking that it was hilarious to make a joke about the temptations in regards to Starmer, and he played along.
It's weird, isn't it? I'm thinking of Boris Johnson. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, Jasmine, you go and then we'll watch it.
I'm thinking of Boris Johnson here as well. I mean, we heard about various of his dalliances, but there were all sorts that we didn't hear a word about. So, you know, it's not just Starmer that they do this with. It is, as Donna says, quite a club, and we're not in it.
Okay, let's have a look at this moment.
Dawn Butler, final question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. October is Black History Month, and the theme this year is reclaiming the narrative. I want to thank Mr. Speaker for the event that you will be doing in your apartments with the Temptations and the Prime Minister. The Temptations tribute band. And the Prime Minister will be having an event in number 10 this evening. Will the Prime Minister agree with me that it's important that we continue to have a debate on the floor of this House in government's time on Black History Month?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Well, I'm not sure just at the moment going to something that's labelled Temptations is quite where I need to go. Look, this is a really important initiative. There will be... it is important it's being marked, and I'm very pleased to be hosting the event this evening, to which I think she is coming. Thank you.
I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? And of course, my conversations with Paul Staines from Guido Fawkes, I think, have provided the public the clearest indication of what has actually been going on. Here's a reminder.
We've both been in the game a long time. You know the rules. If you can't stand it up completely, you can't run the story. So we have a name, as do the Mail and the Telegraph. We have a birth certificate, and people have been looking into it. People have been journalists have contacted the family. So it's in play, and a lot of people do know it, but we have not been able to substantiate it to the degree that you need to publish.
Okay, so to clarify, would you say that this story is about the shape of Keir Starmer's family?
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good way of phrasing it.
And there was more from Paul Staines here. A marked change. You referred to it in the podcast with the bombshells, that all of a sudden, as soon as the Daily Mail and the Daily Telegraph started to suggest, where's Vicky? The disappearing wife. I remembered I made a video about that. All of a sudden, she was out with a huge amount of force, and it was very public. I mean, it all started, do you remember, with that picture on Instagram, loved up picture on Instagram during the Taylor Swift concert, and from there was a marked change. So it was very clear they wanted to shut down the rumours, but I guess it hasn't worked.
Well, what the lobby suspects about Lord Ali's property, they don't really buy into. I don't think any of us really buy into it was for the son to do his revision for his GCSEs. That was he in the doghouse, and was he kicked out? Was he, using the bedrooms at the penthouse? That's what they're suspicious of. Was he not under the same roof as Victoria?
Well, yes, indeed. And I had learned that there were mainstream newspaper journalists looking into the story before the election that Starmer and his wife were, shall we say, living separate lives. Jasmine Birtles, it does matter because it does relate to his public conduct, does it not? I mean, if he is prepared to throw his young son under the bus and say, oh, the real reason I needed to be staying at a multi-million-pound apartment in Mayfair was so that my son could study for his GCSEs, not so that I had to get away from my very furious wife. Like, he is the one that is invoking his children when it is politically convenient to do so. He did the same thing, by the way, over Netflix show Adolescence.
Yes, absolutely. And adolescence, I mean, all the fuss over that we're going back to what we were talking about earlier. I've heard left-wing journalists say that, with adolescents, they bring in Andrew Tate and say that it's, the far right that's causing a problem, and that we have to monitor social media so that the far right doesn't get in, so that's a whole other thing. But I agree with, when it comes to Keir Starmer and his conduct, there's almost a sense, where he himself is joking about the temptations, etc. It's rather that he's enjoying being seen as a bit of a lad.
Jasmine, I'm going to interrupt. Breaking news. If we cross to Vatican City, let's listen in. We have a new pope.
Yay. We have a name.
Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. Habemus papam. Eminentissimum, ac reverendissimum Dominum, Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Prevost, qui sibi nomen imposuit Leonem decimum quartum.
Okay, so this is the moment where the new pope will be revealed to the world for the first time. In the past hour, the white smoke from the conclave. And let's look at these scenes. Let's listen to these incredible scenes. So, Cardinal Prevost has been elected as the new pope. We do not yet know his papal name. There is some suggestion it may be Pope Leo, although that has not yet been confirmed. But these are just the most incredible scenes at the moment. Now, this is extraordinary because I do believe he would be the first American Pope, Jasmine Birtles. Pope Leo the 14th. This is quite a moment, isn't it?
It is, to have an American Pope. Gosh, that is different. And well, it'll be interesting to see the political relations between America and the Vatican, particularly as the Vatican, well, geographically at least, and politically in many ways, is at the heart of the EU. So that should make it it'll be interesting to see.
So let me just tell you about him. He is originally from Chicago, but has spent much of his time serving in Peru. And he holds nationality in both the US and Peru. And he has worked in Latin America for years. However, he was working at the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago from 1978 until 1982. He is said to be very calm, very intelligent, and extremely compassionate. However, he is seen as a progressive on many social issues. Overall, many view him as a centrist. So this looks like, Donna Edmunds, a continuation of the Pope Francis regime, which will not please traditionalists in the Catholic Church.
No, absolutely not. I think they really wanted to break from what we've had for the last few years and a new direction. But I do wonder if there's been some sort of strategic thinking in picking an American. I wonder if they think that maybe Trump can rein him in, or that they can have a better relationship, or there's some sort of thinking along the lines of, if we get somebody that Trump can come alongside and chat with, maybe they think that it would stand them in better stead. I don't know.
Well, Jasmine, it does feel to me like there has been a great renaissance of the United States of America. I mean, this is a historic surprise, right? There were very, very few people who were predicting Robert Cardinal Prevost would become the Pope. There were a lot of people talking about an African Pope, for example, the historic moment of an African Pope, but an American Pope at a time when Donald Trump is tearing up the rule books internationally. Any idea that America was losing its status as an international global superpower under Joe Biden has been thrown out the window, right?
Well, it has. But it'll be interesting to see if sparks fly between the anti-woke Trump administration, which has, as you say, they've ripped up the Biden book, the Biden rule book, absolutely squashed woke in so many areas. If this Pope is progressive, i.e. woke, and insists on pushing a progressive agenda, that's going to be interesting. That really is. I mean, there's only so much. Blood may be thicker than water, but there's only so much that being American can do to keep things together if your policies are diametrically opposed to the policies of the Trump administration. So it could be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone happy, I have to say, in the Outspoken live chat at the moment. Hello, Rob's gone sailing, who says the new Pope is a woke DEI hire. It's interesting, though, isn't it, Donna? Because I think the fact that he is American will be a huge, huge boom for Donald Trump and JD Vance, unless, of course, the Pope follows in the footsteps of Francis and ends up criticizing, for example, the new administration's mass deportation policies.
Yeah, I mean, we could see some real ructions happening between Vatican and Washington if that took place. I think I'm right in saying that Vance himself is a Catholic, so I wonder what he's thinking right now about all of this, and about how they're going to sort of play those the relationship. But as I said, as we said, it'll be I think it's possibly a little too early to say exactly what he's going to be doing. He's literally just sort of not even stepped out onto the balcony yet. So, maybe we should just give him a bit of a chance and sort of see where he's coming from. I wonder whether, it's possible, I suppose, that he could be sort of seeing which way the wind is blowing in America and thinking, well, perhaps we need to rein in this woke stuff a little. And, he might be thinking that that he can somehow do that and keep the central tenets of sort of woke Catholicism. So it'll be interesting to see how the Vatican plays it. It'll be interesting to see how Washington plays it. And it'll be interesting to see how those personal relationships between Vance and the new Pope have any kind of impact on those relations.
Okay, if you're just joining us, let me fill you in on this extraordinary piece of breaking news. In the past hour, after the white smoke emerged from the chimney at the Sistine Chapel, Cardinal Robert Prevost, originally from Chicago, has been named as the first American Pope. He will be Pope Leo XIV. This is considered a historic surprise. He's a centrist in many ways, although some would argue more on the progressive side when it comes to the Roman Catholic Church. He had been living in Rome previously. Interestingly, Jasmine Birtles, his role was to oversee the election of new bishops all over the world. So potentially a very good relationship with those bishops who were, of course, making the decision.
Yes, that that does help, doesn't it? But my immediate thought with that, though, is I wonder what his position was on the paedophile priests, and that included some bishops. The Catholic Church, as you know, does not have a good record in that area, and we still have reports of priests and bishops simply being moved from one place to another.
And here we see, I believe, let's listen in. Let's listen to this historic moment where Pope Leo XIV, the first American Pope, is being unveiled to the world at Vatican City. Incredible scenes. Donna Edmunds, what's fascinating is that Cardinal Prevost is only 69 years old. So he has a historic opportunity to reshape the Catholic Church, doesn't he, for potentially 2 to 3 decades.
And that'll be interesting to watch. And potentially, I mean, as we said, if he really is woke, that could be quite damaging to the church, I would say. But as we said, we ought to wait and see. It may be there's progressive and there's progressive.
Yeah, he is viewed as a reformer of the Catholic Church. That much is true. But just incredible scenes. And I await with interest Donald Trump's reaction to the fact that there has been an American Pope elected. But of course, from a political perspective, this is horrifying news. Absolutely horrifying news for Keir Starmer, who hoped that the VE Day trade deal between the US and the UK would be dominating international headlines on both sides of the Atlantic. Well, That's out the window now, Donna. Oh, let's listen to the new Pope. Okay. We'll speak to you after.
La pace sia con tutti voi. Fratelli, sorelle carissimi, questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto, il buon pastore che ha dato la vita per il gregge di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi. Questa è la pace di Cristo risorto, una pace disarmata e una pace disarmante, umile e perseverante. Proviene da Dio, Dio che ci ama a tutti incondizionalmente. Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi quella voce debole ma sempre coraggiosa di Papa Francesco che benediva a Roma. Il Papa che benediva Roma dava la sua benedizione al mondo intero quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua. Consentitemi di dar seguito a quella stessa benedizione. Dio ci vuole bene, Dio vi ama tutti e il male non prevarrà. Siamo tutti nelle mani di Dio. Pertanto, senza paura, uniti, mano nella mano con Dio e tra di noi, andiamo avanti. Siamo discepoli di Cristo. Cristo ci precede. Il mondo ha bisogno della sua luce. L'umanità necessita di Lui come il ponte per essere raggiunta da Dio e dal suo amore. Aiutateci anche voi, poi gli uni gli altri, a costruire i ponti, con il dialogo, con l'incontro, unendoci tutti per essere un solo popolo, sempre in pace. Grazie a Papa Francesco. Voglio ringraziare anche tutti i confratelli cardinali che hanno scelto me per essere successore di Pietro e camminare insieme a voi come Chiesa unita, cercando sempre la pace, la giustizia, cercando sempre lavorare come uomini e donne fedeli a Gesù Cristo, senza paura, per proclamare il Vangelo, per essere missionari. Sono un figlio di Sant'Agostino, agostiniano, che ha detto: con voi sono cristiano e per voi vescovo. In questo senso possiamo tutti camminare insieme verso quella patria la quale Dio ci ha preparato. alla Chiesa di Roma un saluto speciale. Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una Chiesa missionaria, una Chiesa che costruisce i ponti, il dialogo, sempre aperta a ricevere, come questa piazza con le braccia aperte, a tutti coloro che hanno bisogno della nostra carità, la nostra presenza, il dialogo, l'amore. Y se me permiten también una palabra, un saludo a todos aquellos, y en modo particular a mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el Perú. Donde un pueblo fiel ha acompañado a su obispo, ha compartido su fe y ha dado tanto para seguir siendo iglesia fiel de Jesucristo. A tutti voi, fratelli e sorelle di Roma, d'Italia, di tutto il mondo, vogliamo essere una Chiesa sinodale, una Chiesa che cammina, una Chiesa che cerca sempre la pace, cerca sempre la carità, cerca sempre di essere vicino specialmente a coloro che soffrono. Oggi il giorno della supplica alla Madonna di Pompei. Nostra Madre Maria vuole sempre camminare con noi, stare vicino, aiutarci con la sua intercessione e il suo amore. Allora vorrei pregare insieme a voi. Preghiamo insieme per questa nuova missione, però per tutta la Chiesa, per la pace nel mondo, e chiediamo questa grazia speciale di Maria, nostra Madre. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen. Il Santo Padre Leone, a tutti i fedeli presenti e a quelli che ricevono la sua benedizione a mezzo della radio, della televisione e delle altre tecnologie di comunicazione, concede l'indulgenza plenaria nella forma stabilita dalla Chiesa.
History in the making. There we see Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost become Pope Leo XIV, the first American Pope. Clearly emotional. And let me just show you the first reaction from Donald Trump. We can see here he has just posted on Truth Social, congratulations to Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who was just named Pope. It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. What excitement and what a great honor for our country. I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It will be a very meaningful moment. And we'll just look back at these scenes now taking place, a moment of history. Great to watch history with you, Jasmine Birtles. Not something we expected, of course, because this was a very swift conclave. And what's interesting, I haven't been able to confirm this, Jasmine, but there is some speculation online that Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost was a registered Republican in America. So that would certainly please Mr. Trump, wouldn't it?
Well, it would. I mean, that sounds very interesting, given that, on the one hand, we're being told that he's a progressive, he's a centrist, makes him sound like somebody who would vote for Biden. But if he has been on the Republican roster, I mean, it may be that he was, and he's turned in totally the opposite direction. But yes, if he is still basically a Republican voter, then that would oil the wheels very much with Trump, as you say, and actually potentially help the EU in their negotiations with Trump. Who knows? It'll be interesting.
And Donna Edmunds, great to have you for the first time on Outspoken. Wow, this show took a twist, didn't it? This show took a twist. But what's your final word on this historic scene at Vatican City?
Well, it's just fantastic, isn't it? Just to witness these moments. I lived in Jerusalem for a while, and you always got there that real sense of like the depth of the history, the depth of our civilization and what it's built upon. And actually, it strikes me that if Labour or Starmer was in any way savvy, he would build upon that, because of course today is VE Day, and again it's that sense of our history, of our traditions, of coming together and celebrating who we are as a people. He could really play into that. I doubt he will, but it's lovely to see these scenes. My congratulations to the Catholic Church for having a new pope, and I'm sure it sounds like he's actually going to be quite a good one. I'm quite optimistic about all of this. I mean, reform can go in both ways, you could be a reformer and be woke, or you can be a reformer and be Trump. So let's see what he does with it.
Absolutely. Look, let's just listen in to these final scenes from a very excited crowd who have witnessed history this afternoon. And I've loved witnessing history with you too. One of my goals when I launched Outspoken was that you didn't have to be a mainstream media viewer for these historic events, and I'm delighted today that we have watched history together as the first American Pope is unveiled and Donald Trump reacts. These are incredible scenes. Let's just listen in. Just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful scenes. Thank you so much to my fabulous superstar panel, Jasmine Birtles, Donna Edmunds. We've been on a ride. Today we have been on quite a ride. History made. Thank you both so much. Oh, and let's just go back. Let's just go back to Vatican City. He's waving goodbye. Let's take these scenes. Wonderful.
Nothing better than a balcony shot, is there?
There really isn't. And I'm a good Catholic boy. I'm a good Catholic boy. So there you go. What a moment. What a moment. Okay. Thank you so much to my superstar panel. There he is. First American Pope in history. Just wanted to end with one comment today, though, because it links to VE Day and what I was saying at the top of the show. And thank you very much for Lynn Carey for making this point. And I thought it was important to share. Even though it's a downbeat moment, I totally understand what you're saying, Lynn. She writes, I have been in tears today, thinking what my great-grandfather died for has all disappeared. He would be disgusted. And that's what we're fighting for, isn't it, Lynn? And I totally understand the point that you're making. But let's fight for our great country together to win it back. Okay, Greatest Britain Union Jackass time. A reminder of your nominees. Kit Malthouse, nominated by Michael Cass, because he broke ranks with Tory MPs and peers to call for the recognition of Palestine. Not exactly what the Tory party needs to be doing, I would argue, at the moment. Narendra Kerr nominated by Darren Donaldson because she never takes a break from race baiting on the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Shameful. This was on the whole issue of whether migrants should be forced to speak English. And Ed Davey nominated by Thomas Williams for saying that Trump would lose a fight with Paddington Bear and Bridget Jones. Okay. Let me get to the results. Thank you so much for your votes throughout the day. In third place, Ed Davey for his bizarre Trump comments with 13% of the vote. The runner-up, Kit Malthouse for the Tory Palestine push with 17% of the vote. That's 1-7. But far and away, your Union jackass this Thursday, Narendra Kerr with 70% of the vote. So straight after the show, I am going to put Narendra head-to-head with your other Union jackasses from across the week. Let me just remind you who they are. On Monday, we had Lucy Powell. On Tuesday, it was Prince Harry. On Wednesday, Meghan Markle. Thursday, Narendra Kerr. That is going to be a fascinating vote. And tomorrow, live on the show, we will unveil the worst Britain in the world this week. We're not done yet today, though, believe it or not, because we're moving to Substack now to continue with the Royal Uncancelled Aftershow, www.outspoken.live. Before we get there, though, let me reveal today's Greatest Britain, a brilliant choice from Darren Donaldson. Pauline Alexander, a veteran aged 101, who is one of 5 siblings to serve. She lost her 3 brothers in the war. And of course, this VE Day, she is the perfect choice to be Greatest Britain. Thank you for your company today. We're back 5 p.m. UK time tomorrow, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe if you're watching right now on YouTube or Rumble. Turn on the notification bell to be alerted to our new content. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.